The words cut through the quiet hum of the boarding cabin like a blade dipped in venom. "You don't belong in this section. Hell, I doubt you can even afford the cheap seat you're in." A man in a sharply tailored designer suit glared down at the quiet black passenger beside him, his voice thick with unprovoked contempt. He demanded the crew remove this kind of trash, fully expecting immediate obedience. What the arrogant passenger never imagined was that the unassuming man in the simple sweater owned the entire airline. New York's JFK International Airport, Terminal 4 pulsed with the familiar energy of rolling luggage, weary travelers, and garbled announcements. Beyond the vast glass windows, the tarmac shimmered under the white and gold livery of Meridian Airways. The flight to London Heathrow was a direct transatlantic journey aboard a Boeing 777. Sitting quietly at the gate, holding a lukewarm cup of coffee, was Malcolm Harrington. To anyone passing by, he looked like just another traveler, a middle-aged black man with silver threading at his temples. He wore a well-worn navy cashmere sweater, faded Levi's 501 jeans, and scuffed leather loafers. A simple canvas duffel rested at his feet. He wasn't scrolling through urgent emails. He was reading a dog-eared paperback thriller. No one glancing his way would guess that Malcolm Harrington was the founder of Harrington Capital Group. Not long ago, his private equity firm had executed a bold takeover of Meridian Airways, rescuing the storied carrier from the brink of collapse. Malcolm was not only the majority shareholder, he was chairman of the board. He owned the planes, held the leases on the gates, and his decisions shaped the livelihoods of 50,000 employees worldwide. His leadership philosophy was deeply personal. He refused the isolation of the executive suite. Periodically, he flew his own airline undercover in economy, not in the comfort of first class. He wanted to feel the stiffness of the seats, taste the reheated meals, and, most importantly, watch how his ground staff and cabin crew treated the everyday passengers who kept the company alive. On the manifest, he traveled under his legal first and middle names, Malcolm Thomas, so the crew would treat him like anyone else. As boarding was called for his group, Malcolm picked up his canvas bag and joined the line. That was when Derek Winslow made his entrance. Derek broadcast his sense of importance before he even opened his mouth. He wore a sharply cut charcoal suit, a gleaming Rolex Submariner, and a belt buckle large enough to serve as a statement piece. He was shouting into his phone, elbowing passengers aside without a glance. "I don't care what the ticketing system says," he barked. "Tell the travel department that if I'm ever booked into steerage again, somebody is losing their job. I'm a senior vice president. I don't sit with the herd. Fix it now." He snapped the phone shut and marched straight to the front of the line, bypassing dozens of waiting passengers. "Excuse me, sir?" The gate agent, Lila Bennett, said politely but firmly. "We're currently boarding this group. Your boarding pass shows you're in a later group. I'll have to ask you to wait." Derek slammed his boarding pass onto the scanner. It beeped angrily, flashing red. "Do you know who I am?" he sneered, leaning over the counter. "I fly 100,000 miles a year. My assistant messed up my first-class booking, and your incompetent airline wouldn't fix it at the desk. I'm getting on this plane right now." Lila maintained her professional composure, though her hands trembled slightly. "Sir, I apologize for the inconvenience, but the flight is completely full. First class is sold out. I need you to step aside so I can board these passengers." Derek snatched his boarding pass back and stormed to the side, radiating hostility. Malcolm, standing a few people back, watched the exchange closely. He made a mental note of Lila's name. He wanted to see how she handled pressure under fire. Malcolm handed his own boarding pass to Lila with a warm, reassuring smile and walked down the jet bridge. He knew exactly the kind of man Derek Winslow was. Corporate bullies who bowed to power above them and crushed anyone they deemed beneath them. Malcolm had spent his career dismantling companies led by men just like him. He boarded the massive Boeing 777, greeted the flight attendants with a polite nod, and made his way to his seat in the rear cabin. He stowed his canvas duffel overhead and settled in with his paperback, adjusting the air vent, ready for a quiet, observant flight across the Atlantic. He had no idea the storm was about to follow him directly to his row. Minutes later, the cabin was a bottleneck of frustrated passengers wrestling oversized bags into undersized bins. The air smelled of jet fuel and nervous energy. Malcolm remained still, a calm presence amid the chaos. Then a heavy leather garment bag slammed into his shoulder. "Move your leg!" a sharp voice commanded. Malcolm lowered his book. Standing in the aisle, looking down at him with open disgust, was Derek Winslow. The executive was flushed and sweating, furious that a booking error had landed him in the back of the aircraft. "Pardon me," Malcolm said softly, his deep voice calm and steady. "I said move your leg. I'm in the middle seat," Derek snapped, gesturing at the empty seat beside Malcolm. "And get that cheap bag out of the overhead. My suit bag needs to lie flat." Malcolm glanced at the nearly full bin. "My bag is quite small. There's room for your garment bag on top of the suitcases on the left." Derek's face tightened. He wasn't used to being told no, especially not by someone he had instantly judged as lesser. He looked Malcolm up and down, the faded jeans, the unbranded sweater, and his lip curled. "I'm not crushing a $2,000 suit because you want to hog premium bin space with a gym bag." Without waiting for a response, Derek reached over Malcolm's head, yanked the canvas bag out of the bin, and tossed it onto Malcolm's lap. He shoved his own garment bag into the compartment and slammed the bin door shut with unnecessary force. A hush fell over the surrounding rows. Passengers turned, eyes wide at the blatant disrespect. Malcolm looked at his bag resting on his lap. A slow, cold anger stirred in his chest, but he was a man who had negotiated billion-dollar deals across hostile tables. He did not lose his temper over bruised pride. He calmly placed the bag under the seat in front of him. "Thank you," he said, voice laced with icy politeness. Derek ignored him, claimed the shared armrest, and spread his legs aggressively into Malcolm's space. He opened his laptop and began complaining loudly about the legroom, the temperature, the smell, anything and everything. Every time he shifted, he deliberately jabbed his elbow into Malcolm's ribs. Malcolm stayed silent, book open in his hands, though the words no longer registered. He was testing a hypothesis. He wanted to see how far this man would go, and how his cabin crew would respond. The moment came when Elena Morales, a senior flight attendant with years of experience, walked down the aisle for final safety checks. She had a kind face and the steady posture of someone who had spent her life at altitude. "Excuse me?" Derek snapped, fingers clicking in the air. "You!" Elena stopped, her professional smile sliding into place. "Yes, sir. How can I help you?" "This seat is completely unacceptable," Derek declared, voice carrying. "The recline is sticky, the legroom is a joke, and it's too warm in here. I demand to be moved to first class immediately. I'm a top-tier loyalty member." Elena kept her voice low and calm. "I apologize for the discomfort, sir. Unfortunately, as the gate agents explained, the flight is completely full. Every seat in first class and business is taken. Once we're airborne, I can try to find you a seat with an empty middle. But for now, you'll need to remain here." "That's not good enough," Derek growled. He turned and shot a venomous glare at Malcolm. "I refuse to sit here for hours, especially not next to this." The word "this" hung in the air, heavy and toxic. It was no longer just a complaint about the seat. It was a personal attack. Elena's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. She glanced at Malcolm, who sat staring straight ahead, jaw tight. "Sir," she said. Voice firmer now. "I need you to lower your voice. Everyone on this aircraft has paid for their ticket and deserves a respectful flight. Respectful? Derek laughed, a harsh, grating sound. He leaned closer, invading her space. Look at him. He smells like cheap soap, and he's taking up half my seat. I shouldn't have to share breathing room with someone who looks like he wandered in off the street. You need to move him to the back by the lavatories where he belongs. Malcolm slowly closed his book. The soft click of the pages seemed to echo in the tense silence. He turned and met Derek's eyes, dark, steady, and utterly unafraid. I assure you, Malcolm said, his low baritone commanding attention, I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Shut up, Derek snapped. I wasn't talking to you. Keep your mouth shut and stay out of my space. A young woman in the window seat who had been shrinking against the fuselage finally spoke up. Hey, leave him alone. He hasn't done anything to you. Derek whipped toward her, eyes wild. Mind your own business, little girl, before I report you to the air marshals. The cabin erupted in low murmurs of outrage. A burly veteran passenger in a nearby row stood and turned. Hey, buddy, you need to watch your mouth. You're out of line. Sit down, Grandpa, Derek shouted, completely unraveling. Elena realized the situation had crossed from difficult passenger into genuine security threat. Sir, I am asking you to calm down immediately. If you cannot maintain appropriate behavior, we will return to the gate and you will be removed from this aircraft. You can't remove me, Derek roared, face turning crimson. He unbuckled his seatbelt and tried to stand, but Malcolm's broad shoulders blocked the aisle. I spend more on flights in a month than you make in a year, you glorified waitress, and I am not spending the next several hours sitting next to... He paused, the racist implication of his glare finishing the sentence for him. Get the captain. Get the purser. Get whoever is in charge of this flying garbage can. Right now. Malcolm did not flinch. He simply pressed the flight attendant call button. A single sharp ding cut through the shouting. I agree, he said quietly to Elena. It's time to bring the head purser back here. Elena nodded, visibly shaken, but steady. I'll be right back. Do not move, she told Derek before hurrying forward. For several long minutes, the plane sat motionless at the gate, doors closed, jet bridge still attached. The standoff in the rear cabin had brought everything to a halt. Passengers held up phones. The veteran stood ready in the aisle. Derek sat back with a smug smirk, convinced victory was moments away. You're about to learn how the real world works, he muttered to Malcolm. Money talks, and people like you just get in the way. They're going to drag you off this plane and I'm going to stretch my legs. Malcolm didn't look at him. He simply traced the lettering on his paperback. The real world, he mused quietly, is a fascinating place. You never quite know who you're sitting next to. Heavy footsteps echoed down the aisle. Gregory Shaw, the head purser, a tall man with decades of experience, approached with Elena and another crew member. He carried a tablet with the flight manifest. What seems to be the problem here? Gregory asked, voice projecting calm authority. The problem, Derek interrupted, pointing at Gregory's chest, is that your ticketing system is a disaster. Your flight attendant is insolent, and this passenger next to me is hostile, unhygienic, and taking up my space. I want him removed now. I'm a top-tier member. My name is Derek Winslow, and I have a crucial meeting in London. Gregory looked at Derek, expression neutral, then glanced at his tablet. His gaze shifted to the black man in the aisle seat. Malcolm slowly looked up, removed his reading glasses, and met the purser's eyes. Gregory's breath caught. Recognition hit him like a current. Every senior crew member at Meridian Airways was required to know the faces of the board. Seeing the chairman sitting in economy, dressed in a simple sweater, while enduring this abuse, was something no manual had prepared him for. Sir, Gregory said, voice suddenly thick with respect, looking directly at Malcolm. Are you all right? Derek scoffed, Are you deaf? I'm the one complaining. I'm the one who wants him off. Malcolm raised a single hand. The gesture was so commanding that Derek fell silent instantly. Gregory, isn't it? Malcolm asked gently, reading the name tag. Yes, it's Mr. Chairman, Gregory replied, the title slipping out before he could stop it. The words Mr. Chairman hung in the air like thunder. Derek froze. The smirk melted from his face, replaced by sudden, sickening confusion. He looked from the purser to the quiet man in worn jeans. I apologize for the disturbance, Gregory said, voice jawed dead. Malcolm turned to face Derek squarely. The warmth was gone from his expression, replaced by the cool, ruthless presence that had built an empire. I believe Mr. Winslow is correct, Malcolm said slowly. Someone does need to be removed from this aircraft. The cabin went utterly still. Passengers who had been recording now held their phones motionless, capturing a moment none of them had expected. Derek let out a sharp, breathless laugh. Is this a joke? Are you filming a hidden camera show? Because it's not funny. I told you my name is Derek Winslow, and I want this person off the plane. Gregory did not smile. He stood taller, posture rigid with professional duty and protective loyalty. Sir, this is no joke, he stated. You are currently speaking to Mr. Malcolm Harrington. He is the founder of Harrington Capital Group and the majority owner and chairman of the board for Meridian Airways. You are sitting on his aircraft. The color drained from Derek's face, leaving him ashen. His eyes darted wildly, searching for any reality other than the one collapsing around him. He looked at the faded jeans, the scuffed loafers, the unbranded sweater. He had judged Malcolm by appearance alone and made a catastrophic mistake. Mr. Harrington, Derek stammered, the bullying bravado evaporating into panic. I had no idea. The manifest lists me by my legal first and middle names, Malcolm explained quietly. I fly undercover in the main cabin periodically to observe the true operational health of my company and to see how our passengers treat one another. Derek swallowed hard, a bead of sweat tracing down his temple. Mr. Harrington, please let me explain. I was stressed. My assistant botched my itinerary. I have a major acquisition meeting in London. I haven't slept. I didn't mean anything by what I said. You meant every single word, Malcolm corrected, voice dropping to a low, uncompromising register. You judged me the moment you saw me. You demanded my removal because I didn't fit your narrow, prejudiced view of who belongs where. You berated my flight attendant. You threatened a young woman. And you tried to use your supposed status to strip me of my dignity. Malcolm slowly unbuckled his seatbelt and stood. He smoothed his sweater, his presence filling the aisle. Money does talk, Mr. Winslow, he said, echoing Derek's earlier taunt. But true wealth whispers, and it appears you have no idea how to listen. He turned to Gregory. This passenger has created a hostile environment, verbally abused our crew, and poses a disruptive threat to the safety and comfort of this flight. Contact the captain. Have him call the Port Authority police. Mr. Winslow is to be deplaned immediately. Wait, no, you can't do this, Derek yelled, panic consuming him. He scrambled to his feet, hitting his head on the overhead bin. I'm a top-tier member. I spent hundreds of thousands with Meridian. You were a top-tier member, Malcolm corrected smoothly. As of this moment, you are permanently banned from flying with Meridian Airways and all codeshare partners globally. Gregory, please ensure his frequent flyer account is terminated before we leave the tarmac. Please, Mr. Harrington, Derek begged, all pride gone. If I miss this meeting, my firm will terminate me. My career will be over. I apologize. I profoundly apologize. Malcolm looked at him, expression devoid of sympathy. An apology born of consequences is merely a negotiation, Mr. Winslow, and I am no longer negotiating with you. Moments later, the heavy footsteps of Port Authority officers echoed down the jet bridge. They moved through the cabin until they reached the row. Is there a problem here? The lead officer asked. Elena spoke, voice steady now that she knew her chairman had her back. "This passenger has been abusive and threatening. The captain has requested his immediate removal." "All right, sir. Grab your belongings. You're coming with us." Derek looked completely shattered. The arrogant predator from minutes earlier, reduced to a trembling, humiliated man. With shaking hands, he retrieved his expensive garment bag, the very one he had prioritized over another person's dignity. As the officers escorted him down the aisle, the rear cabin burst into spontaneous applause. The veteran let out a loud whistle. The young woman in the window seat clapped with fierce relief. Derek kept his eyes on the floor, face burning with shame he would never forget. Malcolm watched him go, expression impassive. Justice had been served, but Malcolm Harrington believed in thoroughness. A man like Derek Winslow was a symptom of deeper rot, and Malcolm was not finished with him yet. Once the cabin door sealed and the jet bridge pulled away, the tension dissolved into a charged, electric energy. The Boeing 777 pushed back from the gate, engines rising in a deep, reassuring roar. Malcolm sat back down. He placed his canvas bag into the now spacious overhead bin and opened his laptop. Before he could begin, Elena approached with a silver tray bearing a crystal glass of sparkling water and a warm towel, items normally reserved for first class. "Mr. Chairman," she said, voice thick with respect and lingering adrenaline. "On behalf of the entire crew, thank you. We deal with difficult passengers, but that was something else entirely." Malcolm accepted the water with a gracious smile. "Elena, please. Just Malcolm. And it is I who should be thanking you. I watched how you handled that situation before you knew who I was. You were poised, professional, and unyielding in defending every passenger's dignity. You de-escalated where possible and held the line when necessary." Elena beamed, visibly moving. "I will be personally noting your conduct, as well as Lila's at the gate, in my quarterly report to the executive committee," Malcolm continued. "Expect a substantial performance bonus in your next paycheck. Meridian is built on the backs of frontline workers like you. Never let anyone, regardless of title, make you feel otherwise." "Thank you, sir. Truly," Elena said, eyes shining, before returning to her duties. Malcolm then turned to the young woman in the window seat. "I appreciate you speaking up earlier. It takes courage to confront a bully." I just couldn't stand how he was talking to you," she stammered. "I'm Zoe, by the way. It's a pleasure to meet you, Zoe. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask the purser to move you to business class for the remainder of the flight. There's a lie-flat seat waiting, so you can get some proper rest." Zoe gasped, hands covering her mouth. "Are you serious? Oh my God, thank you." After Zoe and the veteran passenger were discreetly escorted to premium cabins with Malcolm's compliments, he finally had the row to himself. He connected to the aircraft's satellite Wi-Fi and opened his secure email. It was time to do some digging. He fired off a message to Harrison Caldwell, CEO of Braftoft Financial Partners, the firm where Derek Winslow served as senior vice president. Subject: Restructuring of Braftoft financing and personnel requirements. Harrison, I am writing to you directly from the flight. An hour ago, I had the severe displeasure of sitting next to one of your senior vice presidents, a Mr. Derek Winslow, on a Meridian Airways flight to London. I will spare you the exhaustive details, but I will summarize by stating that Mr. Winslow engaged in behavior that was blatantly racist, highly abusive to my flight crew, and deeply disruptive to the aircraft. He was forcibly removed from the flight by Port Authority police at my personal request. At Harrington Capital, we operate on a strict principle. We don't do business with firms that harbor, promote, or tolerate bigotry in their executive ranks. The culture of a firm is dictated by the character of its representatives. Mr. Winslow's character is fundamentally bankrupt. Therefore, I am placing an immediate freeze on the $500 million mezzanine financing round currently under final review. We will reconsider lifting this freeze on one non-negotiable condition. Derek Winslow is to be terminated from Bravery Financial Partners, effective immediately, for cause, stripping him of his unvested equity and severance package. Furthermore, I expect a comprehensive internal review of your corporate culture and hiring practices sent to my office by the end of the month. I expect your confirmation of his termination before I land in Heathrow. Regards, Malcolm Harrington, Chairman, Harrington Capital Group. Malcolm read the email once. It was cold, precise, and devastating, the corporate equivalent of a precision strike. He clicked send. When the flight touched down at London Heathrow, the mood inside the cabin was light and relieved. For Malcolm, the journey had been productive. After setting in motion the consequences for Derek Winslow, he had spent the remainder of the flight reviewing reports and speaking with crew members in the rear galley, learning about their families, their scheduling concerns, and their ideas for better service. He wasn't merely observing. He was listening. As the aircraft taxied to the gate, Malcolm packed his paperback away. When the seatbelt sign chimed off, he waited patiently for the rows ahead to clear. As he finally made his way forward, he found the entire flight crew, Gregory, Elena, and the rest, lined up near the main cabin door. They stood at attention, expressions radiating genuine respect. "Thank you for flying with us, Mr. Chairman," Gregory said with a deep nod. "Thank you for taking care of me, Gregory," Malcolm replied warmly, shaking his hand. He turned to Elena. "And thank you, Elena, for protecting the integrity of this airline. I meant what I said. Expect to hear from my office." "Have a wonderful time in London, Malcolm," Elena said, using his first name as he had requested. As Malcolm stepped off the plane, his London executive team waited at the jet bridge. 3 sharply dressed professionals, looking slightly uneasy about greeting their billionaire chairman at the economy exit. "Malcolm, welcome to London," the managing director said, taking his canvas bag. "We have the car waiting. We received word about the incident in New York. Harrison Caldwell, from Bravery, has been calling our London office for hours, trying to secure an emergency meeting." Malcolm smiled, slow and knowing. "Let Mr. Caldwell wait. Let him sweat for a few days. We have more important things to focus on." As they walked through the terminal, Malcolm's mind was already turning to broader implications. Punishing Derek Winslow was satisfying, but true leadership required proactive change. "I want you to draft a new corporate policy," he instructed the managing director, "effective globally across all Meridian Airways operations. We are instituting a zero-tolerance policy for passenger abuse towards staff. I don't care if they're flying basic economy or holding a 1,000,000-mile diamond medallion. If a passenger uses abusive, discriminatory, or physically threatening language toward any member of our crew, they are to be immediately removed and permanently banned. No exceptions. No corporate overrides." The executives exchanged nervous glances. "Malcolm, a policy that aggressive could cost us some high-net-worth corporate accounts." Malcolm stopped walking and turned to them, eyes burning with the same intensity that had undone Derek Winslow. "If a high-net-worth account believes that purchasing a ticket gives them the right to strip my employees of their basic human dignity, then I do not want their money," he stated, voice ringing with finality. "Our crew is the lifeblood of this airline. They keep our passengers safe in the sky. If we do not protect them on the ground, we have no business running an airline. Draft the policy. I want it on my desk tomorrow morning." "Yes, Mr. Chairman, right away." In the wake of the incident, shockwaves rippled through Wall Street and the aviation industry. Bravery Financial, terrified of losing critical funding, not only terminated Derek Winslow, but launched a sweeping overhaul of its executive culture. Derek, true to the warning he received, found himself entirely blacklisted from high finance. He was forced to sell his apartment and leave the city. His name became a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms, but the positive ripples ran deeper. Meridian Airways' new zero-tolerance policy dramatically shifted the airline's culture. Flight attendants reported feeling genuinely supported by management. Morale soared. Customer satisfaction scores reached all-time highs as cabin environments became noticeably more respectful and peaceful. Elena Morales, the flight attendant who had stood her ground, was promoted to corporate headquarters and tasked with leading global de-escalation and passenger relations training. She used the story of the quiet man in the rear cabin as the cornerstone of her curriculum. And Zoe, the young woman who had bravely spoken up when she thought no one else would, received a thick envelope in the mail shortly afterward. Inside was a handwritten letter from Malcolm Harrington, thanking her for her courage. Enclosed was a full 4-year tuition scholarship to the university of her choice, funded by the Harrington Family Foundation. Malcolm Harrington continued to fly. Periodically, without fail, he put on his faded jeans, his unbranded sweater, and packed his canvas duffel. He sat in economy, drank lukewarm coffee, and read his paperback thrillers. He remained the silent guardian of his empire, proving again and again that the measure of a person is never found in the price tag of their suit, the status of their boarding pass, or the volume of their voice. True power is quiet. True wealth is measured in character. And the real world is indeed a fascinating place, because you truly never know who might be sitting right next to you. What would you do if you witnessed a bully like Derek Winslow harassing someone on your flight? Would you have the courage of Zoe to speak up, or would you look away? Malcolm Harrington proved that true power doesn't need to shout, and that the universe has a remarkable way of delivering accountability to those who believe money buys them the right to treat others poorly. If this story of poetic justice and quiet strength stirred something in you, share it with someone who values integrity and unexpected courage. And if you'd like to hear more stories where dignity is defended and consequences find those who deserve them, consider subscribing for more.